The Kingdom of Cambodia. Cambodia has an area of 181,035 square kilometers and lies entirely within the tropics. Between the latitudes 10 degrees and 15 degrees northern and longitudes 102 degrees and 108 degrees eastern. It borders Thailand to the north and west, Laos to the northeast, and Vietnam to the east and southeast. It has a 443 km coastline along the Gulf of Thailand. Cambodia's landscape is characterized by a low-lying central plain that is surrounded by uplands and low mountains and include the Tonle Sap, Great Lake, and the upper reaches of the Mekong River Delta. Outstanding outward from this central region are transitional plains, thinly forested and rising to elevation of about 650 feet, 200 meters above sea level. To the north, the Cambodian plain, a sandstone escarpment, which forms a southward-facing cliff stretching more than 200 miles, 320 kilometers, from west to east, and rising abruptly above the plain to heights of 600 to 1,800 feet, around 180 to 550 meters. This cliff marks the southern limit of the Dangrek Mountains. Flowing south through Cambodia's eastern region is the Mekong River. East of the Mekong, the transitional plains gradually merge with the eastern highlands, a region of forest mountains and high plateaus that extend into Laos and Vietnam. In southwestern Cambodia, two distinct upland blocks, Graven Mountains and the Dam Rê Mountains, form another highland region that covers most of the land area between the Tonle Sap Lake and the Gulf of Thailand. In this remote and largely uninhabited area, known Aran, Cambodia's highest peak rises to an elevation of 5,949 feet, 1,813 meters. The southern coastal region adjoining the Gulf of Thailand is a narrow lowland strip, heavily wooded and sparsely populated, which is isolated from the central plain by the southwestern highlands. The most distinctive geographical features is the inundation of the Tonle Sap, measuring about 2,590 square kilometers, 1,000 square miles, during the dry season and expanding to about 24,605 square kilometers, 9,500 square miles, during the rainy season. This densely populated plain, which is devoted to wet rice cultivation, is the heartland of Cambodia. Much of this area has been designated as a biosphere reserve. Cambodia's climate, like that of the rest of the Southeast Asia, is dominated by the monsoons, which are known as tropical wet and dry because of the distinctly marked seasonal difference. Cambodia has a temperature range from 21 to 35 Celsius degree, 70 to 95 F degree, and experienced tropical monsoons. Southwest monsoons blow inland, bringing moisture-laden winds from the Gulf of Thailand and the Indian Ocean from May to October. The northeast monsoon also in the dry season, which lasts from November to April. The country experienced the heaviest precipitation from September to October, with the driest period occurring from January to February. According to the International Development Research Center and the United Nations, Cambodia is considered Southeast Asia's most vulnerable country to the effects of climate change, alongside the Philippines. Nearly all provinces in Cambodia are affected by climate change. Rural coastal populations are particularly at risk. Shortage of clean water, extreme flooding, much rise higher sea levels, and potential destructive storms are of particular concern, according to the Cambodia Climate Change Alliance. Climate change has also a major impact on water levels, ecology, and productivity of the tourism in recent years, affecting the food security and agriculture of large proportion of Cambodia's population. Cambodia has two distinct seasons. The rainy season, which runs from May to October, can see temperatures drop to 22 centigrade and is generally accompanied with high humidity. The dry season lasts from November to April, when temperatures can rise up to 40 centigrade around April. Disastrous flooding occurred in 2001 and again in 2002, with some degree of flooding almost every year. Severe flooding also affected 17 provinces in Cambodia during 2020 Pacific typhoon season. Cambodia's biodiversity is largely founded in seasonal tropical forests, containing some 180 recorded tree species and riparian ecosystem. There are 212 mammal species, 536 bird species, 240 reptile species, 850 freshwater fish species, Tonle Sap Lake area, and 435 marine fish species recorded by science. Most of the biodiversity is contained around the Tonle Sap Lake and the surrounding biosphere. The Tonle Sap Biosphere Reserve is a reserve surrounding the Tonle Sap Lake. It encompasses the lake and 9 provinces: Kampong Thom, Siem Reap, Battambang, Phu Sac, Kampong Chenang, Ban Tie Min Chey, Bai Ling, Oda Min Chai, and Priva Hill. In 1997, it was successfully nominated as a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. Other key habitats include the evergreen and dry-dipped carp forests of Mondulkiri province, protected by Khao Sema Wildlife Sanctuary, Nom Prix Wildlife Sanctuary, and Srebok Wildlife Sanctuary, as well as Ratanakiri province and the Cardamom Mountains ecosystem, including Premonivo National Park, Botum Sakor National Park, and the Nom Auran Wildlife Sanctuary and Nom Samkos Wildlife Sanctuary. The Worldwide Fund for Nature recognizes distinct terrestrial ecoregions in Cambodia: the Cardamom Mountains Rainforest, Central Indochina Rainforest, Southeast Indochina Evergreen Forest, Southern Annamay Range Tropical Forest, Tonle Sap Freshwater Swamp Forest, and Tonle Sap Mekong Peat Swamp Forest. Environment. Cambodia has a bad but improving performance in the Global Environmental Performance Index (EBI), with an overall ranking of 146 out of 180 countries in year 2016. This is among the worst in the Southeast Asia region, only ahead of Laos and Myanmar. The EPI was established in year 2001 by the World Economic Forum as a global gauge to measure how well individual countries perform in implementing the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The environmental areas where Cambodia performs worse on the EPI are air quality 148, water resource management 140, and health impacts of environmental issues 137, with the areas of sanitation, environmental impacts of the fisheries, and forest management following closely. Cambodia has an unusual largely expansive of protected areas, both on land and at sea, with the land-based protection covering about 20% of the country. This secures Cambodians about an average ranking of 61 in relation to biodiversity and habitat, despite the fact deforestation, illegal logging, construction, and poaching are heavily deteriorating these protection and habitats in reality, partly fueled by the government's placement of the economic land concession and plantation within protected areas. The rate of deforestation in Cambodia is one of the highest in the world, and it is often perceived as the most destructive singular environmental issue in the country. Cambodia's primary forest cover fell from over 70% in 1969 to just 3.1% in 2007. In total, Cambodia lost 25,000 square kilometers of forest between 1990 and 2005, 3,340 square kilometers of which was primary forest. Since 2007, less than 3,220 square kilometers of primary forest remain, with the result that the future sustainability of the forest reserve of Cambodia is under severe threat. In year 2010 and 2015, the annual rate of the deforestation was 1.3%. The environmental degradation also includes national parks and wildlife sanctuaries on a large scale, and many endangered and endemic species are now threatened with extinction due to loss of habitats. There are many reasons for the deforestation in Cambodia, which range from opportunities, illegal logging, to large-scale clearings from big construction projects and agricultural activities. The global issue of land grabbing is particularly rampant in Cambodia. The deforestation involves the local population, Cambodian businesses and authorities, as well as the transnational corporations from all over the world. Plans for hydroelectric development in the Greater Mekong sub-region by Laos in particularly pose a real danger to the food supply of Vietnam and Cambodia. Upstream dams will imperil the fish stocks that provide the vast majority of Cambodia's protein, and could also denude the Mekong River of the still Vietnamese for its rice basket. The rich fisheries of the Tonle Sap, the largest freshwater lake in the Southeast Asia, largely supply the impoverished country's protein. The lake is unusual. It all but disappeared in the dry season, then expand massively as water flow from the Mekong basin there when the rains come. Those fish are so important for their livelihoods, both economical and nutritionally, said Gordon Holgrave, a professor at the University of Washington who researches Cambodia's freshwater fish, and he points out that none of the dams that either build or BNP or the Mekong River are pointing at good outcomes for the fisheries. In the year 2010, the Cambodian government and educational system has increased its involvement and cooperation with both national and international environmental groups. A new National Environment Strategy and Action Plan (NESAP) for Cambodia is to be implemented from late 2016 to 2022 and contains new ideas for how to incite a green and environmentally sustainable growth for the country. In November 2017, the U.S. cut funds to have clear unexploded ordnance, including landmines and chemical weapons in Cambodia, which it had dropped during the Vietnam War.